You don't start at zero. You start at whatever your parents were. That's the first thing no one tells you. Wealth isn't a ladder you climb from the bottom. It's a floor you're born onto, and depending on where that floor is, the ceiling looks completely different. But let's say you do start at zero. Let's say you have nothing but time, and the vague feeling that something is supposed to happen. This is what every level actually looks like, from the bottom of the floor to the top of the atmosphere. There is a version of wealth most people never see, not because it's hidden behind walls or guarded by men in suits, though sometimes it is, but because the levels are so far apart that people living inside one level can barely imagine the next one exists. A man making $28,000 a year doesn't think about sovereign wealth funds. A woman managing a $4 million portfolio doesn't think about the rooms where central bank policy gets quietly shaped over dinner. Each level has its own language, its own problems, its own invisible ceiling that feels, from inside, like the sky. This is the strange architecture of wealth. It doesn't scale linearly. It doesn't reward effort in proportion to input. It compounds, slowly at first, then all at once, until the people at the top aren't playing the same game anymore. They're not even on the same board. What most people call getting rich is just moving between the first 2 or 3 levels. The levels above that aren't talked about in personal finance books. They don't show up in motivational content. They exist in a different gravitational field entirely, where money stops being something you earn and starts being something that moves on its own, like weather. But before you get there, you have to understand where it begins. It begins with survival. It begins with a number that doesn't cover everything it needs to cover, with a specific anxiety of checking your account before you buy groceries, with the weight of a month that is longer than your paycheck. That's level 1. And almost everyone you know started there. Level 1. Survival. $0 to $25,000 per year. You count things. That's the defining feature of this level. You count days until payday. You count items in your cart. You count how many times you've eaten the same meal this week because it was the cheapest option that still felt like food. At this level, money is not a tool. It's a timer. It runs out, and then you wait for it to come back. The psychological weight here is specific. It's not despair, not exactly. It's a low-frequency hum of pressure that never fully turns off. You can laugh at dinner. You can enjoy a sundae. But the number is always there, somewhere behind your eyes, reminding you of what you don't have. Most financial advice doesn't reach this level. It assumes a surplus that doesn't exist here. You can't invest what you don't have. You can't budget your way out of an income problem. What you can do is survive. And surviving, done long enough, sometimes becomes something else. Level 2. Stability. $25,000 to $75,000 per year. Something shifts. It's not dramatic. You don't feel rich. But one day you buy something without calculating whether you can afford it, and you realize the hum has gotten quieter. This is stability. It looks like a used car that starts reliably, an apartment where the heat works, a savings account with something in it. Not much, but something. At this level, people start making the first real financial decisions of their lives. They open retirement accounts they don't fully understand. They take on car payments. They get their first credit card and learn, sometimes painfully, how interest actually works. The danger at level 2 is invisible, because stability feels like a rival. The pressure is gone, the urgency has faded, and the mind, exhausted from level 1, wants to rest. Many people rest here for decades without meaning to. The ones who move forward don't do it by working harder. They do it by starting to think differently about what money is for. Level 3, middle class, $75,000 to $250,000 per year. This is the level most systems were built around. The mortgage, the 2 cars, the annual vacation, the retirement plan that assumes 40 years of contributions and nothing going wrong. Life here is comfortable in the way that a well-fitted suit is comfortable. Structured, presentable, but not entirely yours. Income is real at this level, but so is the lifestyle that absorbs it. The house requires maintenance. The children require schools. The career requires appearances. Spending scales with earning in ways that feel natural, but are, if you look closely, almost perfectly designed to keep the surplus small. Taxes hit hardest here. The truly wealthy have structures to reduce them. The truly poor don't earn enough to owe much. The middle class pays in full, and then reads articles about how they need to save more. This is also the level where identity gets most tangled with money. The car in the driveway isn't just transportation. The neighborhood isn't just an address. Status becomes a quiet, expensive habit. Level 4, affluence, $250,000 to $3 million per year. The rules start to change here in ways that are difficult to explain to someone who hasn't experienced them. You stop trading time for money in the simple sense. Your money begins to generate its own momentum. Investments compound. Equity grows. A good decision made 5 years ago starts paying you now, while you sleep. At this level, access opens up, not just to things, but to people. The accountant you hire doesn't give you generic advice. They build a structure around your specific situation. The attorney on retainer knows your name. The financial advisor manages your portfolio with actual attention, not just an algorithm. Problems change too. They get more abstract, more complex, and, paradoxically, more expensive. Estate planning, tax optimization, insurance structures that protect assets you're still building. The problems of affluence require a team to manage. And the psychology shifts in ways few people anticipate. Money stops solving the problems it used to solve, because those problems are gone. New ones arrive in their place. Quieter ones, harder to name. Level 5, wealth, $3 million to $100 million net worth. You are no longer in the economy the way other people are in the economy. Your money is not sitting in a savings account earning 4%. It's deployed across real estate, private equity, market positions, business stakes, generating returns that don't depend on whether you show up anywhere tomorrow. At this level, the concept of income becomes almost irrelevant. What matters is net worth trajectory. What matters is how capital is structured, protected, and grown across generations. The people here don't talk about money the way it's talked about on television. They talk about liquidity events, carry, basis points. They talk about who is sitting on which board and what that positioning means 3 moves from now. Time works differently here too. The urgency of lower levels, the counting, the waiting, the surviving, is completely gone. What replaces it isn't peace, exactly. It's a different kind of pressure. The pressure of scale, of consequence, of decisions that affect not just your life, but the lives of people who work for you, invest alongside you, depend on structures you quietly control. Here is what the levels don't show you while you're inside them. The game is not a ladder. It was never a ladder. A ladder implies equal steps and shared rules. None of that is true. Wealth is a system of compounding asymmetry. The more you have, the easier it grows. The less you have, the more friction you face. This is mechanical, not moral. It is how the system functions by design, not by conspiracy. At lower levels, your return is wages tied to time and presence. You stop working, the income stops. At higher levels, return comes from capital. Ownership, assets, and structures continue operating without you. At the top, wealth becomes institutional. Individuals fade into systems. Family offices manage capital. Foundations extend legacy. Influence becomes quiet but constant, present without being visible. Decisions move through board seats, donations, and private conversations between known names. Power at this level is defined by invisibility. It does not announce itself. You were never meant to see this layer, not because it is hidden, but because it operates outside the frequency most people ever notice. There is a question no one asks when they're chasing the next level. Not, how do I get there? That question gets asked constantly, obsessively in podcasts and books and late-night browser searches. The question no one asks is simpler and stranger. What do I become on the way? Because the levels don't just change your bank account, they change your perception. The things that mattered at level 1, community, proximity, the specific warmth of people who have nothing to protect, quietly fall away as the numbers grow. Not all at once, gradually. The way a language fades when you stop speaking it. Wealth, at its higher levels, is an isolation technology. It removes friction, and friction, it turns out, is where most human connection lives. The delayed flight where you meet a stranger, the shared wall in an apartment building, the same grocery store, the same bus route, the same neighborhood problems that make neighbors out of strangers. Remove all of that, and you have comfort. But comfort is not the same thing as a life. This is the trade-off the levels never advertise. Every step upward buys you something real: security, freedom, options, time. And every step costs you something equally real, something harder to name on a balance sheet. The billionaire in the room is not more free than you imagine. He is trapped inside a different set of constraints, expectations, obligations, the sheer gravitational weight of capital that must keep moving or begin to decay. Freedom, it turns out, doesn't scale with net worth the way we assume it does when we're at the bottom, looking up. The most dangerous belief in the architecture of wealth is that the next level will finally be enough. It never is. And the system, quietly, depends on that. You don't start at zero. You start at whatever your parents were, and before you understood what money was, before you knew the word capital or compound interest or net worth, the level you were born into had already begun shaping the ceiling above you. That's not an excuse. It's not a reason to stop. It's just the truth of the architecture. And the first step toward navigating any system is seeing it clearly, without the distortion of myth or the sedative of motivation. Because here is what the levels actually teach you, if you watch them long enough. Money is not the destination. It never was. It's a current, and depending on where you enter it, it carries you differently. Some people spend their entire lives fighting it just to stay above the surface. Others learn to move with it, then direct it, then become something the current flows around rather than through. The question was never how much. The question was always what for. You wake up tomorrow inside whatever level you're in. The number in your account is what it is. The ceiling above you is where it is. But the way you see it, the system, its logic, its asymmetry, its quiet indifference, changes the moment you stop pretending it isn't there. Something most people never do. They stay busy counting days, counting items, counting rungs on a ladder that was never really a ladder at all. Until one day, they realize the counting was never the point. You don't have to.